lapel.
Learning her principles of biochemistry. Chapter 2, Water, the solvent of life. Buffering against pH changes in biological systems. Buffers are mixtures of weak acids and their conjugate bases. Hey there, welcome to our biochemistry lab. Today, we're going to talk about buffers, which are mixtures of weak acids and their conjugate bases. But before we dive into that, let's break down some key terms. First up, we have weak acids. These are acids that don't completely ionize when dissolved in water. They're pretty common in biological systems and play a big role in metabolism and its regulation. When a weak acid loses a proton, it becomes the corresponding conjugate base. And that's where the magic happens. This pair of a weak acid and its conjugate base makes up a buffer system. Now, let's talk about buffers. A buffer system consists of a weak acid, the proton donor, and its conjugate base, the proton acceptor. When small amounts of acid or base are added to the system, the buffer resists changes in pH. To understand how buffers work, we use titration curves. These curves reveal the behavior of weak acids and their conjugate bases, giving us important information about their acid dissociation constants. In the lab, we can measure the pH of a solution and add small increments of a strong base, like sodium hydroxide, to determine the behavior of the weak acid and its conjugate base. And there you have it. Buffers are essential in maintaining a stable pH in biological systems, and understanding the behavior of weak acids and their conjugate bases helps us appreciate their role in biochemical processes. The Henderson-Hasselbalch equation relates pH, pKa, and buffer concentration. We're going to understand the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, a fundamental concept in biochemistry that relates pH, pKa, and buffer concentration. But don't worry, we'll break it down in a way that's easy to understand. First off, let's talk about pH. You've probably heard this term before, but what exactly is it? Well, pH is a measure of the acidity or basicity of a solution. It's on a scale from 0 to 14, with 7 being neutral, below 7 being acidic, and above 7 being basic. Now, let's introduce the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. This equation is super important because it helps us understand how weak acids and their conjugate bases act as buffers in biological systems. It looks like this: pH equals pKa plus log a dash / HA. The equation tells us that the pH of a buffer solution is determined by the pKa of the weak acid in the buffer, as well as the ratio of the concentration of the conjugate base to the weak acid. In other words, it helps us predict how a buffer solution will respond to changes in acidity or basicity. Let's break it down further. The pKa is the negative logarithm of the acid dissociation constant, which tells us how readily the weak acid donates a proton. The Henderson-Hasselbalch equation allows us to calculate the pH of a buffer solution when we know the pKa and the concentrations of the weak acid and its conjugate base. So, why is this important? Well, in biological systems, maintaining a specific and constant pH is crucial for the optimal functioning of enzymes and other biomolecules. The Henderson-Hasselbalch equation helps us understand how the body regulates pH and resists changes in acidity. Weak acids or bases buffer cells and tissues against pH changes. Let's start with water, the universal solvent that plays a crucial role in biological systems. The unique properties of water, such as its high boiling point and heat of vaporization, are due to the cohesive forces between water molecules, primarily driven by hydrogen bonding. Now, let's talk about weak acids and bases. These are molecules that partially ionize in aqueous solutions, releasing hydrogen ions, H+, or hydroxide ions, OH, to a limited extent. A classic example of a weak acid is acetic acid, found in vinegar, and its conjugate base, acetate. When weak acids or bases are present in biological systems, they act as buffers, resisting changes in pH when small amounts of acid or base are added. This buffering action is crucial for maintaining the optimal pH required for various cellular processes. The behavior of weak acids and bases can be described using equilibrium constants and pH. The Henderson-Hasselbalch equation is a powerful tool that relates the pH of a solution to the concentrations of a weak acid and its conjugate base, allowing us to understand and predict the buffering capacity of a system. In living organisms, cells and tissues are buffered to maintain a narrow pH range, typically around 7.4. This is essential for the proper functioning of enzymes, which catalyze biochemical reactions and are highly sensitive to changes in pH. In conclusion, the role of weak acids and bases in buffering cells and tissues against pH changes is a fascinating aspect of biochemistry that highlights the delicate balance required for life. Untreated diabetes produces life-threatening acidosis. Have you ever wondered why untreated diabetes can be life-threatening? Well, it all comes down to a condition called acidosis. When a patient is found to have high blood glucose, low plasma pH, and high levels of hydroxybutyric acid and acetoacetic acid in blood and urine, diabetes mellitus is the likely diagnosis. Let's break it down. The pH scale measures the acidity or alkalinity of a solution. A pH of 7 is neutral, while lower values are acidic and higher values are alkaline. In our bodies, the bicarbonate buffer system helps maintain our blood pH near 7.4. This system involves a reversible equilibrium between gaseous carbon dioxide in the lungs and bicarbonate in the blood plasma. Many enzymes in our body work optimally at a specific pH. Changes in blood pH can have a significant impact on the rate of enzyme-catalyzed reactions, leading to physiological consequences. In fact, the effects of acidosis were so intriguing that scientists like J.B.S. Haldane and his colleague experimented on themselves to study how the body controls blood pH. Hyperventilation, a rapid breathing pattern, can actually raise the blood pH, causing a condition known as alkalosis, which can lead to dizziness and weakness. So, as we've learned, untreated diabetes can lead to severe acidosis, disrupting the body's delicate pH balance. Understanding these processes can help us appreciate the importance of maintaining a healthy blood pH. We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the world of acids and bases. Stay tuned for more exciting topics in biochemistry.
PharmaPal.